48-hour art check, round 18. Right. So,
yes,
we are back. The end of another week.
yes, yeah, 18. Wow, we are like,
they add up fast when you do them every other day.
We're an adult podcast. That's amazing.
Yeah, there we go. We can now go to jail instead of juvie as a podcast.
Exactly. We can go to jail. We can vote.
We can't rent a car.
Yeah, but we can register for the draft.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so we're good. We can fight in war and we can vote.
Okay, it's good. A couple more days, and we'll get some more privileges as a podcast. Okay.
All right. So, so should we kick it off?
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's your turn.
Right.
So, what did you get done in the last 2 days?
Okay. We were talking before this, but I got a lot of overtime at work done. And so those are those weird moments where, man, having a salary job is so appealing, and then you work overtime. But, you know, like, that's, it's like I'm preaching to the choir from talking to a teacher, because it's like, you're not getting paid for a lot of that, the grading time, you know? Like,
yeah.
So this is what I got done. I basically finished the tight pencils for the page, and so I am in a position to tonight start inking and transferring it over and inking it. And I think I explained this last time, but what I do is, you know, digitally pencil the 2 layers, a rough pencil layer, tighten it up. I leave a little bit of the loose pencils so that I have some of the movement and you know, like some of the original directions of the line, so I have a little more freedom when it comes to like basically transferring it with the light box onto the page, and that's where I'm at. So that's where I was hoping to be at. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm at about 1 minute and 10 seconds on my kinetic video project thing.
Oh, cool.
And so I'm kind of right where I wanted to be on that too, and I'm learning a whole ton in that process. So yeah, so like overall, I'm not where I'd like to be, but I'm where I was expecting to be and where I was setting to be, which is something I think I got like 5 seconds, so I'll explain. But like, to me, I'm happy to start getting a little more accurate with my estimates of what I can accomplish.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because that makes, I don't know, that makes a lot of things a lot better. Like, if you're over or under, it's always just frustrating. Because
yeah. I mean, I think in my head I'm always a little over, but it's like I'm learning to compensate when I'm quoting in my head or putting the self expectation up. I'm like, okay, I always overcompensate, and I always think I'm going to want to get this much done. So what will I get done? And then, of course, I'll shoot for more, but realistically, this is what I'll get done.
Yeah. And
that number is starting to get a little better.
That's good.
What about you?
So I did a few things. One is I re-inked this page that you're seeing right now. So I had a figure, and she was pulling this, she was carrying the box, but it was like, she was like super foreshortened. And it was a really dramatic pose, and it almost like stole the power of the next page, which was the real thing. And so I redrew and re-inked that. So I drew it during Artcasters last night, and then I inked it this morning. And then I've been experimenting with Instagram TV. So Instagram released a separate app that feeds into the main Instagram app. And so I uploaded a bunch of videos, I taught myself a bunch of things, and then I figured out a trick. So because I figured out a trick, I made a tutorial video. So I have a new video on YouTube showing you how to take your YouTube videos and put them on Instagram TV. And making that video took way longer than it should have. But
Huh.
so it's kind of, I don't know. I kind of wish it didn't take as long as it did, but I'm pretty happy with it. I think it actually could be fairly helpful to people.
I'll be watching that probably this weekend because that's huge. You mentioned that yesterday on Artcasters, IGTV.
Yeah.
You want to explain it for people who maybe didn't hear?
Yeah. So basically, Instagram has decided to release a platform where they're intending to compete with vloggers on YouTube, and so they're having they've brought a lot of the YouTube personalities over. It's longer form. If you have enough followers, you can do up to an hour. If you're like me, you don't have enough followers, and you can do like between 15 seconds and 10 minutes, which is a bit of a challenge for me because I'm pretty long-winded, as anybody who's watching this knows. And so most of my stuff is longer than 10 minutes. So one of the things that I've had to do is I've had to go in and cut down on stuff, and so I'm kind of re-editing a little bit. But I have 4 or 5 up now, and if you are an artist that does anything with video, like you're doing time lapse or you're doing live streaming or you're doing like updates like we do, or if you're doing the 100 days of making comics or anything along those lines, a sticker stint or anything, and you've got a bunch of content, that video that I produced will help you take that content and repurpose it for Instagram, because I think right now, because like I try to see what social networks are going to be big, and obviously I've been behind the 8 ball most of the time doing this, but if you can get in early and have enough good content early, you can. There's people that gain huge followings, and so that's kind of my goal, is to get in and get enough content right now. And I don't have a ton of momentum on Instagram. I've got a few followers. They're pretty awesome, but it's not like I gain hundreds of followers a day or whatever. But since I've been, just since this afternoon, I've gained a handful of followers just from posting those videos. And
That's awesome.
It's evergreen content, much like YouTube, whereas a lot of other things on Twitter and Instagram, like it's kind of there and then it fades away. But this is the type of content that is there and is searchable and will continue to be there, which is one of the benefits of YouTube, I think. And IGTV seems to be going the same way, and so I think it's going to be really good, because a lot of stuff you can invest in it, like Vero and other things, and then nothing really happens with it. It kind of goes away. But I mean, Instagram is owned by Facebook and is one of the largest social media networks. And so, like, when they do something, it kills other social media networks. Like, Snapchat is still very big, but is struggling because Instagram just said, "Oh, we can do that," and then they lost a lot. And so, when Instagram or Facebook or Google does something, I usually try to pay attention to that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's already a very successful social media platform, so them extending a little bit, it's a better risk, you know.
Right.
It's pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, and so my new goal is to, and I guess I'll start my timer for plans because this kind of transitions in. But
perfect.
My goal for this is to go in and produce videos for YouTube. I'm still using YouTube as my main channel, but then I'm going to produce the videos in such a way that they could be both horizontal or vertical, without having to re-edit them, and so they'll serve kind of a dual function, and I think I figured out how to do that. And when I'm certain, I'll do another YouTube video kind of explaining my process. But I want to be able to hit both of those markets without looking like I'm doing that. And so
that's smart. Try to structure it to where it'll be, you know, twice as much content for the same amount of work.
Right.
So just a little more pre-planning, and you'll probably be able to make that work. But that does sound like a challenge.
Yeah, because one is horizontal, one is vertical. But I think if I just have all of the relevant content in the center, then I think I can make that work. Then the last thing is, you should be seeing my Trello board here. So here's
Hmm.
This page, I haven't started yet. This page, I need to restart. And then here's all the pages that I've inked. And so I've actually got 2 spreads left, and then I'm totally done. So I'm on
That's
track.
exciting.
I'm on track the way that I should be, and I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah, so that's where that page goes, and then she dies, and then I've just got to do some kind of cleanup work and stuff. But this one is the challenge because I don't like the idea I have for it yet, and so I still haven't come up with how it's going to be in my mind. So this weekend, my plan is to figure out how to visually show the woodcutter and the bird becoming friends. And, well, I guess I can show you this. Like, this is the page that comes immediately after that. I'm going a little long, but I'll wrap it up here. Where is it? This one. And so this is the page where the woman, it's described as hating this bird. She, just hates this bird. And so I kind of wanted to have the page preceding that where the woodcutter and the bird are becoming friends have a similar vibe, but rounder and not so slash. But it's just not working. So that's my plan, is to kind of figure out what it is that I'm doing on that page. And I don't know whether that means pencils or rough thumbnails or inks, because I've been struggling with that page for like weeks, and so it's just going to be one of those iterative processes that I need to get there though before too long, and so that's my plan on that one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think that seems good, and it seems like you're in good shape to get your goal hit. Because let me refresh when you're going to.
I'm leaving on the 10th.
Arizona.
Yes, I'm leaving on the 10th
of July, right?
Right. Yeah. So
you got to get
I have
4 pages illustrated by July, or 2 spreads. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so that should be good. And then I'm actually thinking of doing a kind of mini sticker stint. I think while I'm down there, I'm going to try to do a sticker every day and a video every day while I'm down there. So
I love it. That's cool.
Yeah. How about you? What are your plans?
All right. My plans. Let's see. So we're talking the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So I am hoping to have. Let's see, the panel borders and the lettering all hand inked. Probably at minimum inking panel 1. So by Monday, that's what I hope to do. I also want to get some drawing done for a secret project that I can't talk too much about. So that's what I'm going to hope for. I've kind of tried to clear most of Sunday to kind of, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, be able to get that thing knocked out. So that will be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, some really kind of fun little plans that have little to do with art, but just kind of family stuff. Like my son, we signed him up for swim lessons.
Oh,
and
fun.
So tomorrow morning I get to watch my kid, learn to swim for the first time and help him out with that. And I'm pretty stoked, because that's a real joy when you're a parent, to like see your kid go through new experiences is like probably one of the biggest joys, like trying new foods, like going to Disneyland, like trying new things that I think at that age they're so full of like awe and wonder. And like I said, as much as I don't envy the lack of sleep you're gonna have coming up, I do see the joy that you're going to get from it, because of the fact that you get to experience that with a whole new person, witnessing like that awe and wonder of a kid, like, looking at the reflection for the first time and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Yeah. So that's kind of the goal, and we'll see. Oh, and I'd like to probably get like a little further on the video. So I'd like to be at, I don't know, I feel like at least a minute 30.
Oh yeah.
on that, the kinetic project that I'm working on. So yeah.
How long is that song?
Probably like 2-ish minutes. So
Oh, okay.
it's you know,
So
I
you're
want to be at like a good halfway point.
yeah. So you're like turning the corner on it. You're coming around.
From what I remember, I might be over quoting,
Yeah.
but I think there's like 2 verses and a chorus, and then a break, like 2 verses, 2 choruses, a breakdown, and then an ending. So I think those will be doable.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Um, so what do you want to go on challenges? What challenges have you had in the last or struggles?
All right, let's do it. What are yours, or are we starting with me?
I kind of went back to back, so I could do one or not. I didn't have a ton to be honest. There's not a lot going on, but because I'm leaving early in the semester, so I'm missing the last 2 weeks of school. Um, just like any job, when you are taking off, you kind of have to do the work that you're not going to get done when you're going to be gone. And so I'm trying to amp up and ramp up for being gone so that I don't leave my students or my colleagues kind of in a lurch. And so that's been, just kind of getting everything ready and getting ready for that stuff. And I'm going to have to get ready for next semester now when I would normally do that in between semesters. And so there's like finishing up this semester and then there's getting ready for next semester. We're switching up some things, and so there's that. And then my buddy got an Oculus Rift, and
Oh, nice.
I know that's not a challenge, but it is time consuming. So we went over and I was playing with that tonight. It's amazing.
Yeah.
With these lightsabers, and it's like Guitar Hero but with lightsabers, and you have to hit the things at the right time. It's incredible. So. Yeah, so it's just just normal stuff. Just life takes time, but nothing super challenging. Yeah, so just basic stuff.
I love it. It's funny. I have a friend who works at Oculus, and
Cool.
He's higher up, but it's like in the data analytics kind of world there, and it's I still. We have to plan a vacation to go visit, and part of the perks of that too is I hear they have like a full kind of simulated reality room there you can visit. That's supposed to be pretty mind blowing because it's like full out simulation, with like you turn and there's like blasts of air and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a whole interesting component of where the creative market is going to be heading.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of intimidating and weird because it really is like a really open frontier.
Yeah.
And Oculus is definitely kind of leading a charge there that seems to be kind of picking up, but it's kind of where I think maybe Nintendo was initially.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, oh, like people can't afford this system. So it's like a small, and then it's gradually becoming more and more common. So I can imagine in like quite a few years it being pretty standard kind of staple of entertainment.
Yeah. It's pretty cost prohibitive right now, but once
it'll get lower.
It'll get lower and more ubiquitous, and I think you're right. It'll be everywhere.
Well, it's like, if you think about the average cost of just like an Xbox or like, a PlayStation, like it's still pretty up there.
Yeah.
But it's like culture and cost have kind of met kind of happened in between. And now it's a pretty standard thing for somebody to own something like that. So I think that's going to happen. And I'm noticing the price point coming lower and lower with that. It does intimidate me though, because like once again, I don't know how to program for 3D.
Yep, it's different.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did a pitch recently that involved augmented reality and virtual reality.
Nice.
And so we mocked some stuff up with a bunch of students, and it's fascinating. I mean,
I love it.
Yeah, you could do. I would never want to do this, because what no one on YouTube knows is that the half of the room that the camera doesn't point at is almost always trashed. So, but you can throw a 360 camera in a room and upload that video to YouTube, and you click a button and say this is a 360 video, and anybody with like Google Cardboard, or you can go spend $5 at Walmart and get a little headset and throw your phone in it. You press a button and your phone turns into a 360 viewer, and you can just look around. And
which is really fun on our videos because we have a split screen, so you'll just see some really weird stuff if you watch this.
Both will just kind of mix. There'll be like a weird Josh Cory amalgamation.
One of us is going to be just a blurry mess.
Right. That's funny.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, that's huge. That's cool. That's interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, should I get in my challenges?
Yeah.
So my challenges are to stay on point. We have like some family stuff. Like tomorrow, we're heading up to Orange County, which isn't too far from us, but it's still like quite a couple-hour drive. Probably going to occupy most of the day. And then Sunday, I have time blocked out to work on that other project. So a lot of it's just making time for projects and trying to kind of stay on point with all of the plates that are juggling. And, you know, even tonight is going to be a bit of a challenge because I haven't had comic time. I've been working overtime the last 3 days because it's just rush season. We have a catalog. There's all sorts of stuff. That's just part of a creative team, honestly. Is just like there are times within rush seasons where you're just like, that is just the nature of the beast.
Right.
And actually right now we're doing interviews for a position at my work too, which I'm always learning from because, you know, hopefully if you're running a good department, you aren't hiring too often.
Right.
And so through that process, it's been pretty interesting, but there's definitely a common thread I'm noticing with people I'm interviewing where I'm like, oh, okay, we have overtime at my work, but it's not, you know, we're not like doing like film production overtime,
right,
you know, or animation overtime. So, but it still is creative, so that's the cost. And then like to just kind of like tonight, like I want to, you know, print out those roughs, get going on the first round of inks and stuff like that, get a little further on that video editing, and it is a little taxing and hard to find the juice to do that when you've worked, you know, 10 hours or whatever,
right,
12 hours. So yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah,
nothing exciting.
Yeah.
Just the typical challenge of balancing what we do on top of our jobs, which sounds like, yes, I think a common thread we both have right now.
Yeah, and I feel like we have had some really significant challenges, but lately it's been like we continue to be adults with day jobs. That's the challenge.
Yeah, like if we could just, you know, be in our rooms playing with Legos and making cool stuff, none of this would be that challenging.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. It'd be weird to see what happens. I'm just thinking, like, if you look at like Ready Player One, or oh shoot, Panel Syndicate came out with a comic about it. Anyway, virtual reality where you start to build worlds, you know, the Matrix and whatever, they all have this common thread, and I don't see how it's going to end up good. You know what I mean? Like, I only see eventually, like the problems we're having with social media right now, is that people are starting to polarize significantly because of this self-selection where you build your own echo chamber, and you become alienated. Like, if anybody has ever read Time Machine, you know, there's like the Morlocks and whatever. The basic idea of it is, spoiler alert, but it has been around for over 100 years, so, you know, if you haven't read it by now, stop listening and go read it. But this guy goes into the future, like thousands and thousands of years into the future, and the human race has evolved into these exceptionally beautiful, useless creatures and these horrific, like, underground dwelling creatures. And what has happened is that society kind of advanced to the point where they segmented, and those that were doing all the work, you know, started to kind of devolve into very physical beings, and those that like lived on the labor of those that were doing all the work got softer and, you know, forgot how to work and whatever. And then you look at like what's going on in social media nowadays, and you have like, if I'm conservative, then I just mute all the liberals, or if I'm liberal, then I just unfollow all the conservatives or whatever. And so you only interact with those that agree with you, and it's become this weird split where people can't have a conversation with somebody of different viewpoints without dehumanizing the other person and saying, you know, weird, horrible names that make it so that you can attack them. And
it's tough too, because like for the polarization thing, like today I just kind of made a post about, like, you know, I wasn't super happy, and this is, you know, I don't want to get super political on here, but to me it was just one of those weird things of like, I was noticing a lot of people kind of clapping for Trump, like making that executive order that kind of undoes some of the separations of families that are happening, that were happening on the border. And I just kind of made a post that was like, well, you can't kind of congratulate somebody who's made a problem and then fixed it,
right?
Because like you still get credit for the problem. Like, it's good that you fixed it, but you know, like if you've created an issue, like you shouldn't get clapped for fixing it. You should just get like, okay, that's good. Why did it take so long to kind of acknowledge this as a problem and fix it? And that was my purpose. My purpose wasn't like trash on Trump or anything like that. And anybody who follows me on social media knows I'm not a big fan of Trump, and I do lean left. But the purpose of it, like, had that been Obama doing the same thing, I would have been doing the same thing.
Right.
I
don't think it's super political to say that you shouldn't take kids away from their parents and put them in cages.
Well, and if you're going to, you should probably think about it.
Yeah,
and probably be disturbed by it.
Yep.
And so to me, the kind of thing that I'm seeing as a common thread, because I still have some friends who lean right on social media, is I'm noticing this trend, and don't get me wrong, this also carries far through the left, of kind of excusing whatever terrible thing that's done.
Yeah.
In the name of like your team. And it's like kind of like a modern tribalism, like you're describing, where it's like, you know, well, we've got the red tribe and the blue tribe, and well, the red tribe saying the blue tribe kind of screwed up here. Well, let's not listen to that because we're red tribe, so we can't listen to it.
Right.
And that to me is becoming such a common thread. It's a little scary.
Right.
And I guess it's just fresh on my mind because I of course was inundated with like blanket support from everybody on the left, and then a couple right-leaning friends just like, well, you know, Obama, you know, and that kind of thing, where I'm like, it's such a weird time where I feel like, and by the way, my point of this isn't to say I'm better than it, you know, it's just because I think I get locked into that too.
I think we all do.
But it is weird that we're at this time where it feels like almost impossible to communicate across the aisle. And I think it's partially because of that, like tribe A versus tribe B. It's a weird, it is weird to see.
I want to see if I can further offend anybody who's not offended yet and talk about professional sports. Because this is my problem with professional sports. I never understood it. I like sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. But professional sports are weird to me because, like, my dad and my brothers were all really into the Lakers, right? And so I knew, like, AC Green and, you know, all those guys that were on the Lakers in the 90s and 80s. And, but then they would get traded away, and then all of a sudden they would be the enemy. And I'm like, but they're the same player. And so then I started thinking, well, what is it that you're actually supporting when you're supporting a team? Because you're not supporting that group of players, because if they were to go to a different team, you would root against them. So it's not the players themselves. It's not the coaches, because they're kind of interchangeable. It's not even really the owners. And so what it came down to me was, it was 2 colors and a logo. That's what you were really supporting and really all about, was 2 colors and a logo. And no matter what happened, if somebody on your team turned out to be a horrible rapist, somehow, after a little while, that wouldn't be that big of a deal anymore. But if that happened on somebody else's team with a different logo and different colors, well, then you'd never let it go. And that's my problem with professional sports, and it's the exact same thing with politics.
Because, it totally is.
Because no one is actually supporting the politicians. No one is supporting even the policies. And I will go to war with somebody verbally over this, because I guarantee that both sides of the aisle don't care at all about 99% of the policies that they pretend to fight about, because they all do basically the same thing after the rhetoric, kind of blows over and everything. They're all just in it to stay in it, and they're all in it to just stay in it as long as they can and make it as much money as they can, both sides of the aisle. And then as citizens, we all are just rooting for the color and the donkey, or the color and the elephant. And if my guy says something and it's completely insane, I'm gonna come up with a reason why that's okay. And if the other guy says something that's completely insane, I'm gonna eviscerate him.
Well, like a perfect example is like the Electoral College swings in your favor, and suddenly maybe you're not the biggest fan of direct democracy. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, the second it swings against you, like, oh, that Electoral College, dude, we got to do something about it, which we probably should do something about. But it's one of those things of, like, the issue of the Electoral College shouldn't be an issue of, like, well, you won, so now I'm pissed that the Electoral College exists and that gerrymandering exists and stuff like that. Like, all parties do gerrymandering. That should be an issue. Like, we shouldn't be faking districts to acquire votes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a problem across the aisle. But and like once again, like justifying like families being separated. Like, people should not be excited or justifying that. Like, regardless of party line. Like, I would think there would be like these common things we can, unite on. Like proxy wars. We shouldn't be excited about that. I was really very critical. Like, I'm a left-leaning guy. I was super critical of Obama over that stuff, and I'm surprised at the lack of people who can kind of just step back. Like, people are very much like either like pro-Trump or anti-Trump, and I'm surprised at the lack of people that I've seen that are willing to kind of step back and be like, you're right. Like, maybe you're in Trump camp. I'm surprised by the lack of people who can actually go like, I'm in Trump camp and I'm still okay with Trump, but like, this thing is not cool.
Right.
Like, that I would like to see more of, and like I said, across the aisle. But it's a weird trend, and same with sports. I mean, sports are just simulated war. So, sports are for the owners of the teams.
Right.
But I guess like the only thing that helped me with sports was like when somebody explained that fans of sports are just cosplaying.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, I kind of get it. So they're just a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, just a different type of nerd. And I don't have a problem with people liking sports. It's totally cool. Whatever people are into. Here's a good example politically, because both sides have done this.
Oh, just to clarify though, but like for instance in hockey, like the Blackhawks are the best, and so I do understand people understanding like and getting furious with people who might leave the Blackhawks or think that they'd be defeated in the Stanley Cup or something. And coming from the LA area, that's heavy. What I just said. Anyway,
okay. I have no idea what you just said.
Chicago Blackhawks.
I recognize the word hockey. then everything else you said sounded like Charlie Brown's parents. So
Yeah, as I was talking, Keith just started falling.
No, but like here's a good example. The ends don't justify the means, and executive overreach is a problem. Whether you believe liberally or conservatively or somewhere in the middle, and I think actually most people are some degree of somewhere in the middle. The country, the American country has been set up in such a way that no branch of government has too much power. That's the whole thing. Was this king thing is a little nuts because there's just a guy who can just kind of do whatever he wants, and that's crazy. And so let's make sure that we have, like, you know, these guys make the laws, these guys enforce the laws, these guys decide whether the laws are okay, and there's all these checks and balances. And so there's this problem with executive overreach where there's this one little loophole where the President of the United States can kind of just write a letter and sign it, call it an executive order, and then it just like bypasses a lot of those things. And there was huge problems with it for a really long time. And people were very reticent to do it. Lincoln did it like a lot, and it was nuts. But then he like agonized over it and repealed everything afterwards and whatever. But anyway, fast forward, and then you have Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. It's been oscillating back and forth for a little while. Bush did it. Clinton did it. Obama did it. And now Trump's doing it. And so, but every time somebody does it, there's two responses. There's, oh, he's abusing his power in a way that I agree with, and so I'm okay with it. Or he's abusing his power in a way that I disagree with, and so it's horrible. And that has flip-flopped for the past 20 years to the point where now we are very, very close to having almost no checks and balances because both sides of the aisle have turned a blind eye when their guy did it.
Yeah, and that's the thing I keep trying to remind everyone, because like I said, well, Ox just kind of very well pointed out, and we'll probably wrap this up pretty soon, but he was like, this is the art check of right. I'm confused by the title of political talk. So, you know, like it's kind of interesting. It's the environment we live in. Of course, it's going to influence our art and stuff. To me, that is exactly kind of the thing I think people should keep in mind. It's like, look, if you would be disturbed if you saw a policy enacted on the left or the right that was causing like family members to be literally torn apart or something like that, you should be disturbed. Like that should be an across the aisle kind of thing. Whether you think there need to be more social programs or you think that things need to be more state oriented, like whatever your political philosophy, there should be some common threads that we can kind of like understand. And I think the perfect question is what you were kind of touching on, which is like, would I be happy if the other guy had this? And I felt that way about executive overreach. To be honest, if I were getting into that kind of position, like rarely are you going to inherit all the power and then be like, meh, I'll take some of it. You can have some of it. Right. Because all the power comes with all these positive things. Like, a family comes to you and is like, hey, I need a pothole fixed on the road in my district. And you're like, I have all the power. Here, have it. Fixed. Boom. No problem. No checks and balances. You have it. I wouldn't give that up if I were to get into politics. So, because power doesn't usually give up power very easily.
I've got the perfect way to tie this back to art. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I was reading comics in the 90s, and Storm was talking to her mentor, and they were telling this story from the X-Men, if those of you that are not aware of Storm. And she can control the weather, right? And she's African. And so...
What was it, the 90s?
I think so.
Okay. She also had a very over-dramatic voice in the cartoon and at this era in time.
Right, yes.
That Storm. Come on.
That's the one. I think
Visualize.
It's post-Mohawk, if I'm recalling correctly. But anyway, she said something that I thought was really interesting. When she first started to realize that she could control the weather, and that's always was super odd to me that there's a mutant that somehow has control of the weather. But anyway, when she saw people that needed rain because she's in an impoverished area of the world, and so she gave them rain. But what her mentor was describing was, in doing that, you actually caused some huge problems elsewhere because you like stole the precipitation from another place, and like she as a kid threw the entire world into chaos just by trying to take this power and do whatever she wanted with it and help people. And so then there was this course of years where she went through and like had to like balance it, and now she came to the point where she has the ability, but chooses not to kind of play the god of weather because it's just too difficult to the ramifications, repercussions of that are too hard to like balance, and nature does it better. So if Storm was president, I guess this is what I'm saying. I don't think she would take all the power, even though she would inherit it all, because she did that as a kid.
I think that's a fair point, and I think that just to wrap it up, like I think whenever dealing with politics, just try to be cool to other people. That's a good starting point. And regardless of like where you stand on the aisle, and if crappy things are happening to a lot of people, maybe try to like put yourself in their shoes for a second and go, maybe that sucks. Right. So that to me, like if you start from that point, I think you can find a lot of common ground with people who completely have nothing in common.
Yeah.
And I find that like on Facebook it's more difficult. On social media it's more difficult because it's more polarized. I think one-on-one conversations, you find that like those things exist, but it is weird because it has gotten to the point of polarization where it's hard to recognize even a common shred of information or truth. You know, it's tough. It's fascinating, and you guys should read about it if you're at all interested in politics. Like read about cognitive bias and. Like that, this is a whole thing like that people are really concerned about right now. We're all kind of seeing our own information, and we're all kind of creating our own biases and creating our own camps, like you were mentioning. That can also affect your art, you know.
Yeah.
If you're surrounded by manga artists, and that's all you do, and you don't like observe other stuff, then it's like you're missing the stuff that's outside of the box that's going to influence and make your stuff unique. And that's how I tie it back into art. Like, look outside of your box, and try not to keep yourself in a box, so you're not stuck in your own box when people are viewing you. You know?
Yeah, and along those lines, to further wrap up this point, what you're actually saying is to be empathetic, and empathy is one of the biggest tools of creativity and storytelling. Like. If you're trying to tell a story and you want people to care about your characters and care about what's happening and have it feel authentic, then you need the ability to empathize with people that you don't agree with. Because that's the only way to write good characters, is to understand their motivations and to understand their struggles and understand their desires. And so even if you do it totally selfishly and there's any type of debate or disagreement or whatever, use that as an opportunity to get better at storytelling by trying to empathize with the person on the other side of your opinion. Because if at least you just do that, you will be a better artist and a better writer and a better creator.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, especially when writing villains, that comes heavily into play because the best villains, the scariest villains, tend to not be like force of nature villains. And force of nature villains are like those villains that it's like they're just going to come. Like there's nothing you can do. Mm-hmm. They're all powerful. And a good example of that being done really well is like I think it's oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on the name of that film. There's like a Coen Brothers movie where it's just like a murderer who just is going to kill someone throughout the entire thing. You just watch this kind of brutal, unempathetic murderer just annihilate people, forgetting the name. But a good example of the opposite is like when you see like that monologue of a villain where you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Right. You know, you kind of see like a window into the insanity, where it's like, oh, they mean well. Like they're not
Right.
actually trying to do evil. Like they're trying to do good, which can be one of the scariest villains. Like even, um, you know, in Star Wars, like you think about it, like what's scary is the dark side the whole time thinks they're doing what's right for the galaxy.
Right.
And that's what makes it a threat because it's like that's kind of how most villains in reality are. Like
Yeah.
they're doing evil, but it's just to make money for their family or whatever, like
Right.
justification
Everyone,
is going to get
everyone,
there.
everyone is the hero of their own story.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so like being able to empathize and be like, okay, if I were like a psychotic villain, like what would be my justification? Because everybody's got justification for their actions. So
Yeah.
it's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ox, I think that's a good point, a good ending point. But he said the scary part is the toxic fans of Star Wars. So that to get into that a little more, just watch Cory's video about why people are in love with hating and
Yeah.
yeah. I think we should wrap it because we're going to get way too political.
Right. We've gone. I really needed this one to be 15 minutes, and I have no idea how long we've been going, but it's way longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah, way too long.
Okay.
So, but it's always fun. So we
is.
will see you guys on Monday, and hopefully we've hit our goals. And for those of you who are out there and kind of working on personal projects, I encourage you to join us and do something similar. Just set up an accountability thing with a buddy and do an art check. It's been really massively beneficial, and stick to your 15-minute limit because Cory and I are terrible at it, but it's always fun. So, all right, we will see you guys next time.
All right, and if you want to check out Josh's stuff, go to quarterlystories.com. If you want to check out my stuff, go to corykerr.com. And by stuff, I mean art and shirts and stickers and comics and illustrations and posters and all kinds of fun things. So go there and do those things. And thanks to No Saboteurs for licensing the intro music. And we will catch you guys on Monday after we hopefully have met all the goals. My cat is clawing my leg, so it's time to go. Ow, ow. Okay, bye.